You must have mistaken this for Fox News. But I'm not the one. The words hit like a slap across velvet. Jasmine Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just let it hang there, loud in its calm, lethal in its precision. Across the room, Pam Bondi's smile stiffened. For a split second, her perfectly controlled posture gave way to something raw. Surprise? Contempt? A flicker of something she hadn't expected to feel. Pushback. This wasn't supposed to happen. Bondi had walked into that hearing armed with the usual tools. Smirking dismissal, rhetorical traps, a condescending tone soaked in legalese. She had been circling Crockett all morning like a shark that thought the water was still. Every comment carefully phrased to undermine, to box her in, to make her look angry, emotional, unqualified. And for a while, Crockett let it ride. Let Bondi get comfortable. But the moment Bondi leaned forward, voice coated in mock civility, and said, "Congresswoman, with all due respect, perhaps if you'd reviewed the law a little more carefully." That was it. Crockett didn't yell. She didn't sputter. She didn't perform. She just smiled, the kind of smile that says, "You just stepped in it." Then came the line, "You must have mistaken this for Fox News." But I'm not the one. The room shifted, audibly. Chairs creaked. Someone coughed, awkwardly, nervously. Even the air changed temperature. Crockett straightened her papers slowly, then raised her eyes again, not just at Bondi, but through her, as if Bondi was no longer the point, as if this was bigger than the setup. And it was, because this wasn't just about legal sparring. This was about presence, about power, about a Black woman refusing to be minimized, even by someone who had built a career on exactly that. What Bondi thought would be a performance at Crockett's, expense had just flipped into something entirely different. And vastly more dangerous for her. Crockett was no longer responding. She was reclaiming. But how did we get here? And what came next shook even seasoned political commentators. This wasn't just another heated exchange in a stuffy congressional hearing room. It was a collision of two very different worlds, two visions of power in America that couldn't be more opposed. On one side stood Pam Bondi, the polished establishment figure who's mastered the art of wielding power with a smile, the kind of power that silences dissent with carefully chosen words wrapped in layers of decorum. Her voice carries the weight of tradition, of systems built to maintain the status quo. Bondi's strategy isn't blunt force. It's the subtle weaponization of politeness, a coded language designed to erase and diminish without ever seeming overtly cruel. She represents the old guard, the gatekeepers who've long decided who deserves to be heard and who doesn't. And on the other side stood Jasmine Crockett, a rising voice shaped by the struggles of those too often ignored in the corridors of power. She speaks with unfiltered truth, raw, real, and unapologetic. Crockett's presence in that room was already a statement, a challenge to centuries of exclusion. She carried with her the stories of communities erased by history, the voices of immigrants, people of color, and women who refused to be sidelined any longer. This confrontation was more than a clash between two politicians. It was a symbolic battle over representation itself. In America's political theater, where race, gender, and identity often dictate who gets to command attention, Crockett's refusal to back down was a thunderous refusal to be erased. For those watching, especially immigrant communities and progressive voters hungry for authentic representation, this moment was validation. It was a powerful reminder that the fight for dignity isn't just about policies or legislation, it's about who holds the microphone, who gets to shape the narrative, and whose truths are allowed to breathe. Pam Bondi's coded barbs were a tried and tested tactic, designed to paint Crockett as too emotional, too raw, too other to be taken seriously. But Crockett's calm defiance cracked through those codes, revealing their true intent to suppress voices like hers. It was a stark reminder of the invisible walls still standing in halls of power, walls built from assumptions and prejudice. What makes this moment unforgettable isn't just Crockett's comeback. It's what it represents for a nation grappling with its identity. A country still wrestling with its past and uncertain about who belongs in its future. This wasn't simply a verbal sparring match. It was a confrontation with the very idea of authority. Who earns it, who wields it, and who gets to claim it. And when Crockett fired back, she wasn't just defending herself. She was igniting a firestorm that forced the entire country to reckon with the uncomfortable truth. The old rules of power no longer apply. The voices once silenced are rising, demanding to be heard. Loud, proud, and impossible to ignore. What Jasmine says next doesn't just flip the script, it shatters the stage and changes the entire play. But to understand the full weight of this moment, we need to know exactly who Pam Bondi is and why her presence in this fight matters so much. Pam Bondi wasn't born into the political spotlight, but she learned early how to command it. From her rise as Florida's Attorney General to becoming one of the staunchest defenders of Donald Trump during his impeachment, Bondi's career has been a masterclass in navigating power with polished precision. She's the kind of politician who doesn't need to shout to be heard. Instead, she wields her influence through calculated smiles, carefully worded statements, and an unshakable air of control. In every public appearance, Bondi presents herself as the embodiment of decorum and reason, a woman who plays by the rules. As long as those rules serve her agenda, her record reveals a relentless focus on protecting the establishment she's become part of. When Donald Trump's presidency came under fire, Bondi didn't just offer her support. She became one of his most vocal defenders. While others wavered, she stood firm, often stepping in to deflect criticism and shield the administration from accountability. But Bondi's loyalty to power isn't just about ideology. It's also personal survival. Throughout her career, she has expertly dodged controversies and scandals that might have sunk less savvy politicians. From allegations of campaign finance violations to accusations of cronyism, Bondi's name has appeared in headlines that suggest a willingness to bend the rules. Yet she has always managed to emerge relatively unscathed. Her connection to right-wing media only deepens the picture. Bondi has cultivated a platform among conservative outlets, using their reach to amplify her influence while promoting narratives that reinforce division and distract from her own vulnerabilities. This symbiotic relationship has made her a fixture in political circles where power is maintained not by transparency or truth, but by control and image management. But the real danger of Pam Bondi lies not in loud aggression or overt threats. It's in her ability to belittle with a smile, to dismiss with a glance, and to undermine through insinuation. She doesn't need to raise her voice because she's mastered the art of wielding subtle cruelty wrapped in politeness. She's the face of establishment gatekeeping, a barrier that keeps new voices locked out, dressed up as civility. To many, Bondi represents the old guard's refusal to relinquish control. She embodies a system built to maintain privilege under the guise of professionalism, where power is preserved by controlling who gets to speak and who is silenced. This polished veneer of control is what makes her attacks so insidious. Beneath the calm exterior is a calculated force, one that has spent years perfecting the playbook of power: divide, diminish, distract. But this time, her usual tactics were about to meet their match. Jasmine Crockett wasn't just another opponent to be dismissed with a well-timed quip or a patronizing remark. She was a force rooted in lived experience, history, and unyielding resolve. Crockett refused to be boxed in, refused to shrink, and refused to let Bondi's polished barbs land without consequence. The stage was set for a confrontation that would not only challenge Bondi's dominance, but also force a reckoning with the kind of politics she represents. And as the tension mounted, the question loomed: could Bondi maintain her grip? Or was she about to be undone by a voice she couldn't control? Jasmine Crockett wasn't supposed to make it this far. In a world stacked against her, she defied every expectation, every stereotype, every whispered doubt. Her journey wasn't paved with privilege or shortcuts. It was forged in the fires of struggle, resilience, and an unbreakable commitment to justice. Before stepping into the spotlight of national politics, Crockett was a civil rights attorney, a relentless advocate for those who've been pushed to society's margins. She fought not for headlines or applause, but because she believed that every voice mattered, especially those drowned out by systemic injustice. In courtrooms across Texas, she took on cases that exposed voter suppression, racial discrimination, and inequality embedded deep within the system. Her work wasn't just legal, it was deeply personal. She understood what it meant to be silenced, to be underestimated, to be told that her dreams were too big, her voice too loud. And instead of shrinking, she rose. In the Texas state legislature, Crockett became a beacon of hope for millions. Her fierce opposition to voter suppression laws was not simply political theater, it was a fight for the fundamental right to be seen and heard. Every bill she championed, every speech she delivered, carried the weight of history and the urgency of the present.